we have made it to chapter 33. So, in chapter 33, Jacob and Esau finally meet, and we get to see what this messenger was talking about with Esau and these 400 men coming. So, first off, where we left off, Jacob has kind of prepared himself for a battle with his brother. He has separated his family into two camps, or his possessions, everything he loves, owns, cares about, into two different camps. He has taken a portion of his animals and he has sent them in waves as gifts to prepare his brother for his arrival, hoping that, these peace offerings that he's sending of these animals, donkeys, cows, camels, bulls, sheep, lamb, goats, horses, baby animals, adult animals, moms still, nursing so that there's milk, and just sends all of this stuff, servant after servant after servant to go with them. He takes all of these things and he sends them to his brother because he is like, let me send these peace offerings. Let me show him that I'm not coming back, as a big brother, feeling like I can take over things. And I'm coming back as a humble man who understands who he is and respects him and is not trying to have no problems. And so after that, he separates all of his family into these camps and he goes by himself to pray, to like just be alone and prepare for whatever the next day brings. And he sees a man who is an angel. He wrestles with this angel, and this angel changes his name and blesses him. And so in chapter 33, still in the book of Genesis, first book of the Bible, chapter 33, verse 1, it says, Jacob looked up and saw Esau. At this point, he sees him in the distance. He knows it's his brother. He see that smoke cloud coming with these 400 men walking through the desert to see him. And so he divides the children up based off of who their parents are. And he kind of splits up the children by their parents and he puts them in order, and he puts the second wives, or the maids that he was given, and he puts them first in one, like it puts them in one group and kind of creates like these regimented rows. Puts them first. Leah is in third position and Rachel is in fourth position. And so he puts their children with him. So if he's going to lose something, he got some time. If you get to the first wife, I got time for wife number 4 and 3 and 2 to run away. And if you catch up to wife 2, that means that 3 and 4 are still running. And if you catch up to 3, you get 4 who is still going. And he is still out here protecting Rachel and loving her and putting her first above everybody else at all costs in this situation. And so that is the plan. And so what happens is he goes in front of them. He walks in front of them so that they'll know, hey, the signal is if he come at me, run. So he walks before them, and as he approaches his brother, he bows 7 times. And this bow that he does is a bow of submission. Hey, I want you to understand that I'm coming to you as a servant, not as your master, not as your Lord, not as anything great, not that my wealth is so much more than yours. None of these things. He's coming to him and saying, he's bowing these 7 times. He's coming to him in a position of, he's coming to him in a position of servanthood. Like, hey, you still my big brother. I still love you. And I still want you to understand that you hold this position in my life. And so in verse 4, it says, Esau ran to meet him. Now, if you see somebody take off running, he didn't raise his sword, I guess. So I guess it wasn't that scary, but saw this man take off running. He don't know what to expect when they get right there. He sees him running towards him. He has bowed. He is on the ground. He is at a position of servitude and humbleness. And it says Esau ran to meet him, embraced him, and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. This man saw his brother after 20 years. He scooped him up in a big bear hug, and he is crying. They are at this point, like, face to face. They got, they in a tight hug, and they are in tears, and they are embracing each other because they are brothers. They are twins. These are twins. They have spent their entire lives together except for these 20 years. And it didn't matter about whose parent was this, whose parent was that, who mom cared for more, who dad liked best, it didn't matter. None of that mattered. What mattered to him most was he got his brother back. This is the other half of him. This is the other portion of his childhood. This is the person that he has literally known his whole life, from even before they actually had actual out of the womb lives. This is the person that he's known, and they are back together, and he sees him, and he like is just so excited about the idea of this reunion. All that anger that he had, all that mad, all that I hate him is gone. He has lived for 20 years, and so much of life has happened. And so he's just excited and happy, and it just overwhelmed with emotion to see his brother. And then it says he looked up. And when he looks up, he sees women and children. Now, he kept saying when he sent these messages and all these sheep, there's more of this animal if you need. There's more of this if you need it. But he said, your servant Jacob is behind. Your servant Jacob is here. He did not say he had wives and children. And so he's like, hey, who are these people that's with you? What you got going on here? Friend, what's going on? What you got? You done came back home and you done brought people? Like, what's happening? And so he says, oh, these are my children. These are my wives. This is my family. And at this point, it says the handmaids came near because they're still following behind him. And so the second of the sets of wives, the two handmaids, Zilpah and Bilhah, they come forward with their children, and it's 4. They each have 2 apiece. And they come forward with their children, and they introduce them, and they bow down. Then Leah comes up with her whole tribe of kids because she has the bulk of the babies here. And so she has 6 of his children. And 7 of his children, because there's 4 with the 2, 7 because she has the 1 daughter. And so they come and they bow. And after that, Rachel comes with her son Joseph, who is the beloved wife and the favorite son. And so they come and they bow. And he says, he's like, oh my God, you brought everybody with you? Like, you got everybody? Your whole family is here. And he's like, they're just really overwhelmed with emotion and excited to be able to introduce each other, be able to meet each other, to see the families, all of that. And so he asked him, hey, what was all the stuff you kept sending? What's all these animals you had coming down the road? Like, what's that for? And so Jacob is like, I just really wanted you to have, God's blessed me with so much, and I just want you to have your portion of it. I want you to have a piece of it. Like, this is for us as a family. Like, this is ours. And I didn't know if you were still angry, and I was hoping that my gift to you would make you feel better about seeing me again. And so in verse 9, Esau was like, nah, man, I got more than enough. I don't need your donkeys. I got donkeys. Like, you sent me some camels too. I didn't really need no camels. Like, this is when you get us, like, it's a kind of gift. Like, when they used to have, like, those boxes where you could send somebody, like, a box of fruit every month. Or you send them a couple CDs every month. Like, they used to send you the weirdest stuff in the mail. And you were like, I got enough. I don't need anything. That's his situation. Like, God has blessed me too. I'm good over here. I'm just happy to see you, bro. And so, in verse 10, he says, I just really wanted you to be pleased with the gifts I brought you. I saw God. God told me to come back. And I just wanted to have you, have your good, be in your good graces. I wanted to be, your brother again. I wanted for us to be family again. And I pray that you keep the stuff that I sent. Like, don't give it back to me. I don't want it. I know you don't need it, but just have it because it's meaningful to me to be able to kind of repay you for everything that we went through. And in verse 12, Esau says, Let's go and go. Let's go. Let me journey back with you. Like, come on to my house. Let's come on home. Daddy's still back here. And, I know you ain't think he was still alive, but Daddy is here. And let's go back home. Let's go and leave right now. I got these 400 men. They're going to help you bring whatever you need to bring. Let's do this thing. And so in verse 13, Jacob says something I think is absolutely insane. and leads to a real weird chain of events. But he says, I got young kids and I have young flock. I got animals that just move slowly. We're going to slow you down. Like, you journey back home and I'm going to come later. Give me a couple of weeks, couple months to come and get there, because I have to move kind of slowly, because I got this huge group of people. My whole family is here. I can't just have, my kids out here all day, every night. We gotta stop. We gotta shelter. We gotta take a break here and there. We have animals that are being born, so we gotta take a break here and there. It's gonna take too long to travel with us. So you go ahead. And so, Esau says in verse 15, as an answer to that, let me leave you some of the men that I brought with me to help you along your journey. I know this area. It's been 20 years since you lived out this way. I know how things look. I know how things work. Let me leave you with some men for protection. Not that there's going to be anything crazy that goes on. I'm not expecting anything foolish, but let me just give you some of what I have. Let me help you out. Leave you a couple, 2, 3 guys that's going to help make sure that you guys have what you need. You can trade in this area, because people know me. They'll respect me more than they'll respect you as a stranger traveling through. So let me leave you some people. And Esau leaves, because Jacob is like, no, I'm good. Don't even worry about it. I am fine. You don't have to be concerned about it. I got this. I'm going to allow you to go ahead back. You're going to travel a lot faster than me. Your men can travel with you. We're good. We've been traveling all this way. We're fine. We're going to make our own path. And so Jacob travels a certain amount of space, and he builds houses. And these houses, it depends on which version of the Bible you're using. These houses aren't like physical in-ground foundational structures. They're kind of temporary structures that will provide shade for the animals, provide storage for food and things like that. They're not real permanent structures. They're still very much nomads. He's still traveling, but he plans to settle for a time in this land. Let this round of animals that are about to give birth. Let those babies grow up a little bit, stay for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and that requires, a more long-term temporary shelter. And so he does that. He sets up. And when he stays there, he is in a city called Shechem. And this city, we're going to hear, because craziness ensues in the next chapter. But Shechem is the city that they're in. And he comes in, and they see his wealth. And he buys a field from them. And when he buys this field, he now has access to trade. He has access to barter, not as a stranger, but as someone who owns land there. So they deal with him a little bit differently, because he is now a citizen of this city. He is now a member of this particular city. So he gets better deals. He's not treated like a foreigner or a stranger. He's treated as though he is a member of this community. And so that is what happens. And in verse 20, like we see Abraham do, like we see Isaac do, he builds an altar. And this altar that he builds, it is El Elohi Israel, is what he calls it. And in this, that means God of Israel. I probably should have got that right off. But God of Israel. And it's just really him acknowledging that God promised him that he was going to bring him there, that he was going to bring him back home, that he was going to reunite with his brother, that things were going to be okay. And they, in fact, were. And so he is grateful for that. So I am going to recap. First off, after he has this wrestling moment with this angel and his name is changed, he journeys forward. And as he is traveling, he sees his brother and these 400 men coming off in the distance. And so he has separated his family out into 4 camps. There is wife 1. Well, not necessarily in order. He has one of the maids as wife 1, a second maid as wife 2, and these are the camps that are right there. The 3rd camp is going to be Leah and his children, and the 4th camp is Rachel and her child Joseph. And he has them separated out with a of course, animals and all the service they need to carry and cover them and all that stuff. So that in the event that Esau is still angry, these 400 men have come to destroy them, he'll come and he'll destroy them in waves so that there is time for the wives in the back to get away, for the children in the back to escape and go on and still live life if he's cut down. But what happens instead is that Esau is overcome with emotion and elated to see his brother, and he comes and he falls on him and they hug, they embrace, there is a kiss, there is weeping and tears and a whole very beautiful reunion moment. And Esau is like, hey, just let's travel back together, like let's spend some time together catching up. And so he's like, no, I'm gonna slow you down. I got a lot of stuff with me. There's a lot of babies involved. There's a lot of animals here. My camp moves really, really slowly. So you go ahead. Just know that we are at peace and I am happy to see you and it's good. And so Esau again offers, like, can I leave a couple men to help you with your travels? And Jacob was like, nah, we've been doing this for a while. We're good. We're going to make it. No problems. I'm glad this has worked out. And so Esau and the 400 men that came with him traveled back to his home, and Jacob settles, and I'm going to say Jacob and Israel kind of interchangeably going forward, but Jacob settles in Shechem, and that area, he purchases some land so that he can have some kind of temporary structures, have some good trade arrangements and things like that, because he as a foreigner could not purchase, couldn't trade well, couldn't mingle with the people well, couldn't really handle disputes in court if there was an issue because he wasn't a citizen of that area. So purchasing land kind of gave him those rights. So remember, remember, if God tells you that he's going to do it, if you have to wait for it, wait for it. He's going to do it. Remember that God is making sure that we are in good graces and good space, and that when you come in and you have an opportunity to forgive or to be forgiven, do it. Do not hold that grudge. Do not hold on to that thing. You don't know what you're holding on to, because he could have came in here prepared for his brother to attack him and attacked first and ruin this reunion. He could have really, could have messed some stuff up had he not really been open to God's promise. And if the message comes back a little weird, let God work through it. You don't know what parts are left out. You don't know what's needed, what's not needed. So make sure that you are trusting and believing in God above all else. And y'all just be blessed.